I've known Clarina Bezzola for, I think, more than 10 years, and she's really one artist who I can say understands and embodies art in its totality. There's almost no art form that she hasn't touched in the length of her oeuvre. She's done opera, singing, performance, costumes, sculpture, painting, drawing. She's recently written short story. Every medium of art she has touched, and each work of art has really been an expression of herself and an expansion on the entire body of work from start to finish. Here she is in her own words. I hope you enjoy. What I love about Anchor is that it's given me creative control of my own material. I was approached by a big company to do a podcast about the art world, and I didn't want to sign over all rights to them. Anchor has allowed me to make this podcast and to keep creative control as well as financial control in terms of advertising. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free. You can use it on your phone or your computer. There are tools that help you to upload your recordings that you've done separately or on the app. They'll distribute it for you as well, which again, I couldn't wrap my mind around distribution, and they have it all there for you in one place: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and many more. You can easily make money from it as well. They help you advertise. As you can see right now, I'm getting my first ad out through Anchor. And all you have to do is download the app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Good luck with your podcast and getting your voice out there and owning your content.
Going off.
Yes, good morning. Hi, Clarina. I'm happy that you joined us this morning on the Bees and Honey podcast.
Hi, Nicolette. Nice to be here.
So tell us where here is for you. Where are you now? Where is your studio? I'm not sure if you're there or somewhere else.
Well, first, I am here in this virtual space with you. So
yes.
That's the first place I'm at.
Yeah.
Otherwise, my body is in New York City, in Brooklyn. Actually, to say it exactly, in Gowanus, Brooklyn, which is supposedly an up-and-coming neighborhood. I'm a bit afraid of what's coming. Yeah, this is actually my 30th year in New York. It's crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm from Switzerland. I grew up in the German area of Switzerland in the countryside. I went to high school in Zurich, and I came here a day after my baccalaureate, the A-level graduation.
Wow.
I came to New York thinking I'm going to come for 6 months only. And I remember my first day here, I almost got run over by a car on the street because I had my head up looking at the skyscrapers. And someone grabbed my handbag, and I thought he wanted to steal my purse, but he really saved my life because I would have been run over.
Right.
So that was my first day in New York. And so it's actually very symbolic because really overwhelming, really exciting. But at the same time, there is this great sense of human connectedness that I feel it everywhere, but I feel it especially here in New York.
And danger
very
too.
Deep. Yeah, everything. But also, the fact that someone stepped out and saved me shows like how cradled we are within, the universe in some way.
Yes.
So it's really interesting.
And I also thought of it as some sort of metaphor for you in general, because you're often with your head up, looking up above you at whatever ideas or stuff is going on in your head. whereas
Yeah,
down below, cars are rushing by.
I know. And then there's always a guardian angel somewhere.
Yes, yes.
Like, I can't even say how many times I've left my cell phone somewhere, like on a bathroom sink in a restaurant or anywhere, and people are running after me and bringing it to me.
Yes. Well, I think this is what attracted me to your work in the first place and to you as a person. You said you're a Swiss and from the German side of Switzerland. And I think there are great artists coming out of Europe in general and from Switzerland from time to time. But your work is really deep in a way that I think not many Europeans who have studied art can be. I mean,
Oh, that's so interesting. You punched me together with Adolf Wölfli and all the outsider artists because I really think I completely agree with you.
yeah.
I really associate with them much more than
Mm-hmm.
to the socialized Swiss artists.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, in terms of art education, I'm only 50% socialized, or perhaps even only 30%, because some people even make a PhD. Sorry, how do I turn off the notifications on my computer so it's not ringing in?
Oh, are you on the computer or are you on
Yeah,
the
I'm
phone?
on the computer.
For the
So,
notifications on the
yeah.
computer, I think you have to go up to. I'm not sure. Are you on an
Yeah.
Apple?
Anyway, yeah. I don't want to use up too much time. Let's just hope it's not ringing too much.
Yeah, you just have to put the sound button off. I think it's on the top keys on the right side.
But I'm using it
Oh
for
yeah,
to
yeah,
hear
yeah. Oh yeah.
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Oh.
about the do not disturb. But anyways, but it
So,
doesn't matter.
basically what I'm saying is I only did a bachelor degree
Mm-hmm.
of art,
Mm-hmm.
BFA. I did
Mm-hmm.
it at Parsons School of Design. And
Mm-hmm.
my teacher, who really was absolutely important to get me on my path as an
Mm-hmm.
artist, her name was Lisa Gralnick. She
Mm-hmm.
was amazing. She's also a witch, I think. She
Wow.
was so scary. She has
Uh-huh.
this like amazing big mane of hair and this like really scary laugh, just
Mm-hmm.
like a witch.
Mm-hmm.
And she was very scary.
Mm-hmm.
We all were shivering every time she entered the building.
Right.
But anyway, she made me swear to her that I will do a master degree of fine arts within 5 years of graduating.
Mm-hmm.
And I did swear to her. And then after 5 years, I didn't want to continue right away. I wanted to like really go within myself and find my path
Mm-hmm.
myself after doing my bachelor's. And after
Mm-hmm.
5 years, I went to Colombia to all the the open door days where you can
Mm-hmm.
go and see the universities.
Yes.
And and I went to Colombia where, for example, painting and sculpture departments were so far apart. You had to take a bus to get from, or the subway to get
Yeah.
from one to the other.
Right.
And then it at Yale, same thing. You had to take a bus to get from painting to sculpture. Like
Wow.
completely, like how is that going to create a community?
Yeah.
And then it was really interesting coincidence that a classmate from Parsons from Fine Arts of mine was just finishing up her master's at Yale when I
Mm-hmm.
came to visit. So I saw her.
Mm-hmm.
And I really have to say everything that they were making there and they were talking about there
Mm-hmm.
was um, felt like a foreign language, felt like gibberish to me. Like I really felt that whatever they're doing there has nothing to do with what I'm doing.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
And I knew that if I'm gonna go there, they will either completely squash me and destroy me, or I will just have a fight for 2 years and be completely miserable
Yeah.
and broke at the
Mm-hmm.
end, you know. And
Right.
that what's that gonna do? Everything felt very, very heady, very just mental. And it's funny because people ask me, well, are you a conceptual artist? What is a conceptual artist? So a conceptual artist is someone who thinks, or who, I don't know, has a concept. It's, I guess I am.
In that sense, every artist is a conceptual artist.
Yeah, it's just, I don't really know what they're talking about.
Right.
So I really, really felt that going to any of these universities is not the right thing for me. Also, you know, am I a painter or a sculptor? Yeah, I'm probably more a sculptor. I love making stuff. I love using my hands. I love touching materials, and I love working on materials until they sparkle, until their deep identity, their deep self comes to the surface, becomes visible. Like the diamond, you have to carve it to make it sparkle. It's beautiful also just as a rock, but if you really want to, a diamond is actually not a good example because it's already kind of has this crystal shape, which is already fascinating. But like gold ore, you know, or like what you have to like extract it from the earth, and then you have to melt it down, and then you can make crazy filigree beautiful things.
Right.
So that's the beautiful aspect of working with materials in 3 dimensions. And another thing is, as a sculptor, whatever you create shares our space. Like painting is a bit more theoretical. It's like a plane that you kind of create a theory in, or perhaps a trompe-l'oeil, or an illusion of another reality where you can go into with your mind. While with a sculpture, you can touch it. It's even more real. It's the first step towards sharing your space is a sculpture, and the next one would be a pet, and the next one would be a boyfriend, and the next one would be a child. In terms of responsibility, you know.
That's I never thought of that, but that seems pretty accurate.
So you know all about the child thing, huh?
Right. I mean, and I don't have much space for sculpture with him around.
Well, it depends if how you want your sculpture to transform.
Well, that's the other side of things. Yeah. Generally, I like it to transform into cash.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, so tell me, so we talked about the painting versus sculpture. What about the other stuff that you worked on? How did that fit in at the time when you were post-grad thinking about the next stage of your work? What were you working on when you felt that?
Well, the thing is, I wish I thought more, or I don't know, thinking about the next step. Everything I do is just kind of happens to me. I don't know if that's a good thing, but I can't change it because this is how I am. But like coming to America happened to me. It was a girl, a distant relative of mine, who told me that she's going. And I said, well, that sounds really fun. And then I ended up coming with her. She said she's going to go back to Zurich and tell everybody what a monster I am. And she said, go ahead, I'm not going back. But it's so funny. I said that in 1991, and I am still in some ways so deeply torn about being here versus in Switzerland. Wow. Because I mean, I guess I'm never going to be settled. I just, I'm so connected to my family and so struggling with that connection. Basically, my family is the reason why I'm here, because I can't live with them, but then I miss them. So this is very, very difficult situation. And then,
but you go back sometimes.
I go back sometimes, but it's never enough. Like, my brother was 10 when I left. So I would go back, and in the 2 weeks I would go back, I would try to make up the disciplining of a year in 2 weeks.
Right.
And he said it was absolute hell every time I came back. And
Right.
he missed me so much, but at the same time, he was dreading my visits.
Right. Interesting.
So yeah, that's living far away from your family. Also, I would come back and my mother would pick me up from the airplane. I would go down into the kitchen, open the fridge, and have a nervous breakdown. And like with my jet lag, not having slept in the plane, start to completely clean out my mother's fridge. When you think about transgression,
What was in there that was so offensive?
it was just crazy. She's changed a lot, but she was just like never threw anything away. And she would
Right.
pride herself that she would eat yogurt that's 1 year old and
Right,
that
right,
was
right,
still
right,
good.
right.
She did not believe in expiration dates. She said that was just
Right.
a marketing idea of some
In,
supermarket.
she's probably right in some ways.
She is, and I'm very much like her in many ways. We
Yes.
become like our parents, and we can't help it.
Oh, true, for
Love it or
real.
hate it.
Yes, yes.
But anyway, you asked me about the other things that influence my life or creativity.
Well, well, yeah.
Um,
What were you working on at that time when you were looking into Yale and the other post-grad
oh,
opportunities?
I was just on my path. No, that's
Yeah,
the biggest thing. I was on my path. I was on my path. Like, who is going to tell me anything? Like,
but but what were you
like,
doing? What were you
I
actually
was making
doing?
sculptures. I was,
Mm-hmm.
what was that? 5 years. So I graduated in 95. So that was
Mm-hmm.
in 2000. I don't know if you saw that show with Cynthia Braun, these sculptures that were like metal structures with fabric sculptures tied, like strapped up inside in
Mm-hmm.
domestic fabrics, like either um, uh, furniture fabrics or like women's house coats. At that
Mm-hmm.
time in the Lower East Side, there were just Jewish women's
Yes.
hosiery shops. And I
Mm-hmm.
would go in there and ask them to sell me house coats. And I said it was for my grandmothers and that they were very large because I needed a lot of fabric. And that so that they don't get jealous, I wanted two of the same so that they're not going to get jealous of each other.
Funny,
I
funny,
came up with this
funny.
whole story just to make them happy. Like I would
So,
never tell them that I'm going to cut them up and make art. And I wouldn't even cut them up. I would very painstakingly take a seam ripper and cut only the threads and then disassemble them very carefully.
wow. And
And
then you
then
had the
make those. Yeah.
right. And you had a gallery at that time showing the work?
Yeah. Cynthia Braun.
Mm.
She was, yeah, she was wonderful, but she was not the right person to be in the gallery world. And she realized that afterwards. It's a very cutthroat, tough world. And
Yeah.
she was not tough enough for it. She really loves artists. I don't have any contact with her now, but she really loves artists and she really, yeah, she just wanted to be in that world.
But you were
Um,
already doing what a lot of the artists who were getting their master's degree wanted to do. So you didn't really,
yeah,
I mean, school is for people who are figuring stuff out. You had already figured a lot out. I mean, you were
I
doing
I
it. You were
think
practicing
yeah,
art.
exactly. I mean, the thing is, I started making things when I was 5 years old, 4 years old. My
Mm-hmm.
mother, in Switzerland in the 70s was like, it's post-war. Even though we weren't in the war, we were
Mm-hmm.
very much affected by it. So
Mm-hmm.
Switzerland was able to close its borders
Mm-hmm.
entirely within
Mm-hmm.
7 hours. I don't know if it's seven or I think 3 hours. That
Wow.
no one can come in, but that doesn't mean just driving in and out. It means no import no food coming in, nothing coming in. We're entirely self-sufficient. So our
Amazing.
education was really geared towards creating a self-sufficient country. It's not like that
Mm.
anymore, but it was like that in the
Mhm.
70s. So we
Mhm.
learned, I had an amazing crafts education in high school. Like we
Mhm.
learned how to weave baskets, how to make felt hats with dyes that we found in the forest ourselves. We made
Wow.
pottery. We made our own glazes with dyes that we found in the earth, in the
Mhm.
forest. We
Mhm.
made our own paper. We
Mhm.
carved spoons and decoy ducks, and we literally
Mhm.
learned everything, how to make basically everything in high school. And then at Parsons, I did my first year in fine arts until I realized that we're screwing the sculptures to the floor so they don't collapse. So we didn't really learn any technical skills. So I
Mhm.
switched to metalsmithing and furniture design to learn how to build stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and then I was so lucky. I had this amazing teacher, Lisa Gralnick, who was
Mhm.
crazy smart and intelligent and well read. And
Mhm.
she is the one who brought me back to German language literature, like Franz Kafka, Thomas
Mhm.
Bernhard,
Mhm.
Thomas Mann. All
Mhm.
these I started reading because of her.
Wow.
So and it's just amazing how I find back to my culture through people in America. Like now I'm really into Carl Gustav Jung, the psychoanalyst, and
Mhm.
he was from Basel, but he lived outside of Zurich.
Mhm.
Actually, his house is now a museum. I just went, but I actually knew a guy who went to therapy with Jung. He's dead now,
Wow.
but
Wow.
the circle just keeps closing
Yes,
itself.
yes, yes. Which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So
Hold on,
recently,
I said one more thing I have to say.
mhm.
So what I
Yeah.
haven't mentioned at all is that I'm
Mhm.
also a classical singer. My
Mhm.
grandmother's brother was the founder and the conductor of the Zurich Chamber Orchestra, and I
Mhm.
was in his chorus when I was 15. So for 5 years
Mhm.
until I was 20, and then I came here. And
Mhm.
probably another reason why I didn't want to go to a college, to a master's, is because I found my way back to singing after I graduated from Parsons.
Mhm.
So I just like really was getting back into that, and that probably I just didn't want to abandon that.
Absolutely. So what happened with the singing in terms of the work after that?
It's really funny because like sometimes studio visits do so much and it almost doesn't matter who it is who visits you. They just a
Mhm.
comment and it clicks. So
Mhm.
a friend of mine who is an artist came, and his and my work have really not very much to do with each other. He's like mathematical and scientific, and I'm not.
Mhm.
His work is beautiful, but still. So he said, "But you really, these pieces you're making, you should perform them." And up to
Mm.
then, my singing was always separate. And I remember my ex-husband saying, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you practicing so much? Like, why are you so serious? Like, what are you expecting? You want to become an opera singer now? And I
Mhm.
said, I don't know. I just have to do it and I have to do it well. So then he said that your work should be performed.
Mhm.
And then it clicked. And then I created my first performance piece, which is Lamentation, where the singing
Wow.
and the work on the body and the
Mhm.
space and the interaction with the audience, it all
Mhm.
came together.
Wow. Yes, I remember that piece. Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. Sometimes I feel people, I mean, I understand why you go to study because you really want to find your path.
Mhm.
But eventually, you have to look at yourself, like what
Mhm.
draws, what attracts you, and
Mhm.
then what what do you see in the world that you
Mm-hmm.
really chime with?
Mm-hmm.
And life will show you your path. You don't have to get a degree in order to know who you are.
Right.
That's not
Right.
going to tell you who you are.
Right.
Like,
I think that's
honestly,
true.
I think studying art is in a way absurd.
It is in a complete way absurd. But anyways, it's a good way for people to spend their time figuring things out and for institutions to make some money. Well, tell us
Yeah,
in terms of the performance, the singing, the costume making, do people have to know the whole body of work to appreciate the documentation of it that you have in the drawings, the videos, and I'm not sure what else, how else you've documented things like
absolutely. You
lamentation?
don't need to know anything. You don't need to
Mm-hmm.
know absolutely anything. You don't even need to know who I am. You don't need to know
Mm-hmm.
my name.
Mm-hmm.
You just see, you come in contact with something, and
Mm-hmm.
you just, it's a mirror. You know, whatever you are fascinated by or you're attracted to mirrors something within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what art is. Art is a mirror. And
Mm-hmm.
my work is all about life and the struggle of how we are trying to fit into society and what our deepest self needs. And this
Mm.
is such a big struggle for everyone.
Yes.
That's why my work is very universal and timeless,
Mm-hmm.
because this struggle is something people struggled with 2000 years ago.
Right.
So you
And
don't need to know anything. You can just
yes.
see what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need any education. It's like, you know, the UPS guy has said so much
Mm-hmm.
smarter things than so many curators who've come to my house. I mean, I actually have, I've come to the conclusion that a lot of curators are not even interested in art. I'm
Thank you. I
serious.
mean, I was about to say the same thing on another interview the other day, but I just stopped myself. Thanks for saying it for me.
I mean, I had someone visit me. She came in. I mean, I have a gigantic site specific sculpture in my house. Like,
Mm-hmm.
my wall bubbles out and
Mm-hmm.
creates another space that you can climb into, and you can climb up through the ceiling to the second
Mm-hmm.
floor. It's like the
Mm-hmm.
intestinal tract of my house. And from the
Mm-hmm.
outside, my house looks like a really, really, I didn't change anything. I bought it, and it's really actually not my taste at all, but I keep it because I find it really funny. It looks
Mm-hmm.
like an Italian villa. It's
Mm-hmm.
like really kind of mafiosi aesthetics. It's like kind of really tacky with this styrofoam stucco on the outside. I mean,
Uh-huh.
really funny house. And then you come in and everything's completely different. And then there's this, like, the wall is bubbling up. So
Mm-hmm.
that this one particular person came in and walked by this gigantic, twice as big as an elephant thing, sat down at the table and talked about the art world and people in the art world for 1.5 hours incessantly. I could not stop her.
Mm-hmm.
She did not look, and that the room is filled with sculptures. She did not look once. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
that I need to get praises or I need to get it, just hear that I'm doing well or whatever. But it just, when someone who is supposedly an art, how do you call it, ambassador,
Mm-hmm.
like, shows absolute zero interest, what does
Mm-hmm.
that say about our society?
Yeah. Or about our field. Yes.
Yeah, it's too much glamour, too much ego, like
Too
way
much
too much.
surface. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's why I started this podcast in a way, because I'm
yeah,
just
it's
so tired
great.
of all this stuff.
I like
Well,
the
tell
fact
me.
that you're just doing just with talking, just with sound, so you can't see anything. you know? So we
Yeah.
have to describe what we see.
Yes. Well, it's definitely a different medium and it kind of forces people to pay attention because, again, I think people are so visually bombarded these days, like that poor curator in your studio.
Absolutely.
They just can't see anything anymore, in
That's
a way.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I just want to say one thing. There's this amazing philosopher. His name is Jean Gebser, and he talks about different consciousness structures
Mm-hmm.
and the evolving that human species is evolving from, and then to the next consciousness structure. And we are
Mm-hmm.
now, he says, in the mental consciousness structure, which is all about science and
Mm-hmm.
rational thinking. And
Mm-hmm.
the eyes are the senses, the central, how do you say, the sense attached to
Mm-hmm.
that consciousness structure. And when a
Mm-hmm.
consciousness structure goes towards its end, then it becomes very absurd. So the visuals inundating our world and
Mm-hmm.
science becomes absurd, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I found that very, very, very interesting because I totally agree with you. Like we need to create another space.
Well, in that sense, again, your work is interesting because you touch so many different forms of art. You're an artist that you sing, you do sculpture, you do the performance, and I
Now I
want to talk
wrote a
about
short
the
story.
exactly. Well, let's talk about the short story, and then we'll go back to the works on paper. Tell me about the short story. What inspired it? And I myself, like I said, I've been thinking about those issues that you brought up about Mother Earth and about, man just sort of being sucked back in at the end of the day. Tell me how it came about. Because in some ways, I recognize that character as recurring in your work as well. The Gloria, Empress
Yeah.
Gloria. So tell
Well,
me.
the thing is, like, I point my fingers to curators who are not interested in art, or to universities, or to out into the world criticizing. Who am I to do that? I am as much guilty and as much part of this whole system. I am
Mm-hmm.
doing the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
constantly trying to explain things, squeeze things into formulas,
Mm-hmm.
and really trying to understand the world. And it's
Mm-hmm.
this very understanding, trying to categorize and understand the world that is getting us into trouble. And lately, I've been really fascinated with the manifesto of Theodore Kaczynski,
Mm-hmm.
the Unabomber.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely amazing how he's proving to us that we are in a speeding car driving full speed against the concrete wall. Our species is like driving 160 miles an hour towards a concrete wall the way we're
Mm-hmm.
going. And
Mm-hmm.
he suggests that we should just stop industrial science. And we
Mm-hmm.
can't. This is our very deepest core aspect, that we're curious and we want to better our situation, or think we make it better, and then we make it worse. And so I'm just like, with Mother Earth, I'm just saying this short story with Mother Earth, like we're trying to figure it all out, they're trying to organize everything, and in the end, we're just going to go back into the sea, like every wave goes back into the sea.
Right.
And we have to do it gracefully. That's important.
Well, the idea that we're doing science from an altruistic point of view, I think is not exactly right. At the end of the day, in this book, Sapiens, it's all
Oh
for
my
the
God.
idea of progress and profit.
Absolutely.
What's
It's
being, yeah, yeah. What's being funded? Why is it being funded? I mean, none of it is really to make anybody feel better. It's all about who wants to make money off of what technology is being developed. But tell us a little bit about you did this long drawing. I can't remember how.
yes.
Yeah. Tell us how
This
that
is
worked. And
really perfect. It fits so perfectly to our conversation
hmm
because first of all, I have to quickly say my father lived in Japan in the 60s, and he
Mm-hmm.
was absolutely obsessed with Japanese culture and art. And he
Mm-hmm.
collected Japanese art. Everything in our house was Japanese art. And we had one Chinese scroll, but everything else was Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I only realized in 2010 when we did a family, my father died in 83, but with my mother, we did a family trip back to Japan in 2010, and it hit me like a bunch of bricks that
Mm-hmm.
how much my work is inspired by Japanese art.
Wow.
And then I went on a residency in Sri Lanka, and I
Mm-hmm.
started this folding book. In Europe, we call it Leporello, which is
Mm-hmm.
also the name of the character in Don Giovanni who carries the book with all his conquests.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a folding book. So we call them Leporellos. And
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so I started the first one there. And what I love about this format is it's so long. It's like, I don't know, almost 20 feet long and
Yeah.
only about 8 inches high or 6 inches high. And you
Uh-huh.
can fold it up and put it in your handbag, but you cannot look at the whole thing at once. Like you have to step up close to
Mm-hmm.
see because it's so small, but to
Yes.
see the whole thing because it's 20 feet long, you have to step away. And it's very much like life. Like you can look at your life, you have to
Mm-hmm.
step away, look at your
Mm-hmm.
life, but then you
Mm-hmm.
have to check in with like little memories here and
Yeah.
there
Yes.
about your life, like very nice, juicy, beautiful details.
Yes, yes. Well, tell us what that looks like. What's the subject of it, or how does it?
Well, this one is all about exactly about coming out of the universe. It starts, first of all, it's all pink. I only used a very bright, I don't know, do you call it fuchsia or pink
Mm-hmm.
um, gouache, and it's on rice paper. And it starts out with a big bottleneck that spills out a liquid, and all the droplets of the liquid in the liquid are these little creatures that are like little humans, but they're all
Mm-hmm.
really unconscious. And then they see this like flashing reflective thing that they're really fascinated with. And then the humans become more and more like conscious and start focusing on this mirror image. And
Mm-hmm.
then basically the mirror image could be the moon or any kind of goddess, like
Mm-hmm.
God is a creation by us. So we
Mm-hmm.
created the gods or God as like a perfect mirror image of ourselves to even be
Hmm.
able to contemplate our own existence. We need a mirror.
Right.
So then this mirror becomes bigger and bigger. And at one point, about in the middle of the piece, there's a real metal, shiny mirror inserted into the sculpture. I guess, a sculpture into the drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see yourself. And then it really shows I don't know how to turn this off. Sorry. I did the
It's
do
okay.
not disturb.
It's okay. Don't worry.
Yeah. I'm sorry, this woman just can't stop. Let me just write to her. Um,
Okay.
hold on. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so it's like a long folding book, and in the very middle is that mirror, and then you see yourself. So basically, what I want to say is, I am this person. I am this unconscious being, this obsessed about my reflection. And then
Mm-hmm.
now in our society is the mirror are the cell phones and all the screens. We are looking for our reflection. Like we identify with different movie actors, or we glamorize ourselves on Facebook. or
Right.
Instagram.
Right.
And then at the very end, she's so obsessed about this mirror image. You see her clutching this mirror more and more and like having this obsessive face. And then she climbs into it. And then she's basically back in the universe bottle.
I like
So
that. It's kind of like Alice in Wonderland, or I don't know, Dorothy in Oz or something like that. I don't know if you know
yeah,
those books.
yeah, of course. They're beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. I love these stories. I love fairy tales. I love
Mm-hmm.
these magic stories because
Mm-hmm.
they allow us to kind of lift the rug over from our mundane reality and see
Mm-hmm.
about the magical world that's right underneath in our very lives, right
I love
underneath
that
the
you said that.
surface.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And I think what you call the magical worlds are also what some people would call the spiritual worlds, which are quite
absolutely.
accessible to everyone if we're interested in discovering it.
Absolutely. And it's so funny. My my boyfriend's mother gave me an Etsy store credit to buy myself nicer numbers for my house because the ones on my house are like really tacky.
Mm-hmm.
And she's really she loves interior design and she's always like trying to make her space better and more beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, I decided that I can buy similar numbers, nice numbers, just at Home Depot for much less. And instead I ordered myself a medieval gown.
That's brilliant. That
It
is
just
brilliant.
came
Oh
in
my
the
God.
mail.
You
It
have to
just
send me
came
a
in.
picture. I need to see
It's
that gown.
And my boyfriend said, like, where are you going to wear this? Like, you can just go apple picking or berry picking upstate. Like, when are
Yes,
you
yes,
going to
yes.
wear this? And I just
Mm-hmm.
said, I just want to create magic and wonder wherever I go.
Yes, yes, yes. That sounds cool. Anyway, I'll ask for that picture again. Maybe send me a text message with it. So I wanted
Yeah,
to ask a couple more questions before we're done. We don't have much more time, but
yes, go for it.
so now I remember you said you don't have a gallery. So how does that work out for you? I mean, are you selling
Yeah.
anything, or do you have your
This
own
is a really
collectors, or?
interesting question for any
Mm-hmm.
artist because
Mm-hmm.
it's the ultimate struggle that artists deal with.
Mm-hmm.
When you work with a gallery,
Mm-hmm.
it's like checking in with society every 30 seconds. Like you have to, in order to like basically people buy what they kind of seen before. It's like, there's this, I don't know if you saw The Secret or read the book, and
So
which
true.
says the American Indians didn't see the earlier boats by the
Mm-hmm.
Spanish because they had never seen a boat before, so they didn't know what it was, so they just ignored it. I don't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
know if that's true. That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so people only really buy what they already know. So to make something that already exists out in the world, you have
Mm-hmm.
to check in with the world and see what other people are doing.
Right.
And then your work becomes relevant. But the thing is, I don't want to make work that looks like something that already exists. I want to talk about life.
Yeah.
And I want people to check in with themselves.
Yes, yes.
So unfortunately, like a gallerist, a really good gallerist is someone who is very passionate about art and very skilled in terms of making the bridge between the artists and the society. And
Yes.
he or she has to protect the artist, not to have to go out and bring in collectors and go out
Mm-hmm.
and party and become really famous like that. The
Mm-hmm.
gallerist has to help the artist really go deep within
Mm-hmm.
the artist. to find
Mm-hmm.
out the really profound issues of humanity. It's not about me as a person. My work is not about me. My work is about
Mm-hmm.
the struggle of being human.
Mm-hmm.
And if I check in with society every 30 seconds, I'm not going to be able to really find a profound truth.
For
So I
real.
haven't had a
Wow.
show. Yeah, I haven't had
Mm-hmm.
a solo show in 8 years. And it's
Mm-hmm.
been the most nourishing time in
Mm-hmm.
terms of really finding some very complex truth about
Mm-hmm.
our human existence.
Mm-hmm.
But in
Mm-hmm.
terms of selling, of course, it's you sell better
Mm-hmm.
when you're working with a gallerist. But
Right,
you
right.
have to find a gallerist who is really good at what they're doing. I am
Mm-hmm.
good at making art, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not my place to find collectors and bring in people into the
Mm-hmm.
gallery. If that's
Mm-hmm.
what you have to do as an artist, how come they still expect 50%? Like,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
supposed to do everything.
Right. Right.
So a real gallerist is someone who does that, the work with society and educating society
Mm-hmm.
by also curating well. It's an incredibly creative and demanding position, very difficult to do it well. And
Mm-hmm.
then the artist has to be absolutely true to him or herself. And you can't
Yes.
do that if you check in with society every 30
Every
seconds.
seconds. I agree. And now, what are your plans then for not just exhibiting the work, or what are your plans for creating more work? What are you doing soon?
I just want to, what I see our world is so inundated with pictures and things. I want to create work or experiences that create more space for us,
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
everyone. I want
Mm-hmm.
everybody who comes into contact with me or my work to feel more
Mm-hmm.
spacious,
Wow.
to breathe. That's
Wow. That's
absolutely what I want to create.
well, that's a beautiful, beautiful notion. I never really heard anyone say that before, but it makes perfect sense. Makes perfect,
Yeah.
perfect sense. Well, I will make it over to your studio soon. I mean, it's not that I
Yeah,
don't
that
want to
would
see
be
what you're
fun.
up to, but I will
Of
get
course.
there as soon as I get there. And
Yeah,
I wish
just
you
take
all
your
the
time.
best.
Thank
Well,
you.
I mean, you took 8 years of you took the last 8 years working on stuff without even a thought of an exhibition. So I think that in itself is
No,
amazing. I mean, time again
I'm
is so
not.
relative in a way too.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
we'll talk in the next few days again, and hopefully
Yes.
we'll see each other soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been wonderful having this conversation with you, really.
Yeah, it was a good catch up for us as well. So I'll say
Yes.
bye now, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. Be
Okay,
well.
bye,
Bye.
bye.
Yes.